Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moorer, McCormack, Polensik, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Will everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal.
By Councilmember Spencer, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved, seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
All right, we'll go to this portion, which is public comment. I want to remind all of the people for public comment that your comments should not disparage any individual on council nor the administration. I will abruptly gavel the meeting if that happens. And then I also want to make sure that all of the council members please acknowledge the members as they speak. And then for anyone that speaks, please acknowledge your time. When you see yellow, that means to wrap it up. And when you see red, that means to abruptly stop. First up, we have Maisha Watkins from Cleveland Heights to talk about ordinance number 99-2023. She is not representing anyone, and she is not being paid by anyone. And if I'm not mistaken, 99-2023 is regarding violence prevention. Is Maisha Watkins here? Is Maisha Watkins here? I do not see Maisha Watkins. Therefore, I'll move to the next speaker, distinguished gentleman from Ward 17, Charles C., to talk about violence prevention efforts. He's representing Stop the Pain, and he is not representing anyone at this time, or being paid by anyone at this time. Mr. C.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. To Council President Blaine Griffin, distinguished council members, and the community gathered here this evening, I rise to support passage of the proposed ordinance 4862-023, which would establish a neighborhood safety fund that would provide grants to programs, fund intervention strategies, and initiatives serving Cleveland residents that address the root cause and the effects of violence and crime in our city. Just this very weekend, there were 17 shootings and 2 homicides in our city. The epidemic of violence must be confronted and eliminated. At a recent community gathering, I declared that Cleveland would lead the nation in violence reduction within the next 3 years. Ordinance 4862-023 can be a bold beginning of that amazing reduction. Cleveland has within its borders the formula necessary for success: a brilliant legislative body, a visionary mayor, the will to succeed, and the community poised to come together to work collaboratively to end the senseless violence in our streets. Community violence, especially gun violence, is a problem with multiple focal groups and targets. We need a broad array of services and supports to address youth, adolescents, teens, and young adult families and returning citizens. Mr. President, there is a new growth and cooperation among service providers working to address violence in the community, as evidenced by the renewed efforts to work together in addressing problems. Resources are needed to support this work in grassroots and small nonprofits, large organizations and agencies, and support system-level innovations. One agency, organization, governmental office cannot address the totality of this issue. I encourage Council to do all that it can to establish sustainable funding streams to support the violence prevention in community, both in terms of supporting existing efforts and creating opportunities for innovative and creative programming. Cleveland has a rich tapestry of committed agencies and organizations. Both those organizations need to be better resourced, and collaborations need to be prioritized and granted sustainable funding. The passage of proposed ordinance 4862-023 will bring together the city's best, most committed, determined groups and individuals to do the work necessary to make Cleveland a leader in violence reduction across the nation. Believing that the City Council of Cleveland will take the courageous action necessary to pass ordinance 482023, I offer my thanks in advance, and I extend my thanks to this body for its daily devotion and service to the citizens of Cleveland. In parting, Mr. President, I loudly applaud also your stand on neighborhood revitalization first. Thank you all for hearing me. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. C. I do have to acknowledge the gentleman's work over the years. Mr. C has been a very, very hardworking person advocating for young people, so acknowledge you, sir. All right, next we have David Abbott from Ward 15, my good friend David Abbott, city support for West Side Market with ARPA dollars, and he is representing the Cleveland Public Market Corporation, and he is not being paid by anyone. Mr. Abbott, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President Griffin. Thank you all for being here. It's great to be with you this evening. I'm here on behalf of the 15 other lovers of Cleveland and of the West Side Market who've been asked to serve on the board of a new nonprofit that's in the process of being formed to operate the West Side Market in partnership with the city of Cleveland. And we're doing it simply because we do love Cleveland and we love the market. But as much as we may love them, we also recognize that there are deficiencies in the market, have been for a long time. We observe that every time we go to another city and we look at a market elsewhere and realize that in some ways they're doing things better than we've been doing and that we need to improve. And those sort of deficiencies, I would say, have been magnified by an awareness that I think we all have, if you've been to the market, of an increasing backlog of repairs and maintenance that need to be attended to. Also by the fact that the market is in incredibly intense competition that's quite different from what it faced a number of years ago. And also that the impact of the pandemic has been devastating to many of those who work in the market. Many vendors have been put out of business, and you may know that more than 30% of the market is now vacant since the pandemic. All of those are challenges that put the market, frankly, in a state of peril if we don't attend to them. And how are we going to do that? Well, one is by creating a nonprofit that is solely focused on doing this job, one that can generate private money to bring to bear on those issues. Second is by a partnership with the city that needs to be spelled out in a written detail so that we know how we can most effectively attack those problems. And also by promoting the market in new ways and bringing it to the attention of people through, first of all, a master plan which spells out the changes that need to be made, not just in the building, but also in how the market operates, not just in that location, but in new ways through educational programming and access to healthy food across the city. And I know that you face a tremendously difficult challenge of allocating a finite pot of money, even a large pot of money like the ARPA funds. But we know that you will do it as best as you can. And all we urge is that you think not just about the needs that you see that are evident, that we all see, but also about the opportunities that exist. And the market represents need, yes, because we have $40 million or so in maintenance that needs to be attended to, but there is also this opportunity to generate private money that would not be available without the existence of a nonprofit. Private money simply won't pay for deferred city maintenance on a city asset. But if we approach this in that spirit of partnership, I'm confident that we can meet this opportunity and make the market the best in the country.
Thanks, Mr. Abbott. Next, we have Jenna Thomas from Ward 16. Jenna would like to talk about traffic calming and ARPA, and Jenna is representing Bike Cleveland, and she is being paid by someone. Jenna, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Council President, members of council, for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Jenna. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Manager at Bike Cleveland, and I know when you hear Bike Cleveland, you usually think we're here preaching about bike lanes, which we are known for. But a lot of our focus and our work is around just general street safety for pedestrians, for bicyclists, for drivers, for business owners, for homeowners, for renters. So I wanted to take a minute to read some of the headlines that we've seen over the past couple of years. Video shows bystander nearly hit by car that crashed into Cleveland business. This was in the Central neighborhood along East 55th. Workers forced to run for their lives inside six-shooter coffee shop as car comes crashing through the front window. This was actually the second time that coffee shop had been hit by a car in just a year. Vehicle crashes into side of Cleveland apartment building again. This happened at an apartment building on East 59th and Superior, also for the second time. Vehicle crashes into utility pole on Wade Park in Cleveland. Some residents left without power. Car crashes into apartment in Cleveland's Brooklyn Center neighborhood, pinning 2 people inside. Crash sends car into Cleveland Church. This was at Prospect and East 30th. Car crashes into building at the corner of West 25th and Clark Avenue, and this building actually housed a preschool enrichment center. And this is barely the tip of the iceberg. Last year in 2022, there were 14,417 crashes, which is a crazy number. 14,417 crashes. And I know you all know this is a huge issue. You guys are the ones getting a call when someone crashes into a building or a house or a fire hydrant or, God forbid, a teacher, a fireman, a child. And so I'm here today to urge you all to support the $3 million allocation to traffic calming in our city as part of the Back to Basics infrastructure funding. The design of our roads encourages speeding and reckless driving, and not only on our arterial roads, but also in our neighborhoods, and it needs to change. And we've never really had the financial capacity to, take visionary action to improve our infrastructure, and I don't want to see this opportunity pass us. Infrastructure projects like these could last decades and affect thousands of people. And I know traffic calming won't solve everything, but the design of our roads can really go a very long way in protecting people's lives, improving quality of life. And so I'm asking you to please support the $3 million allocation, and even maybe consider how your $35 million fund in your wards could support safe streets. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I don't always respond to remarks, but I do want to acknowledge my colleague, Councilman Kerry McCormick, who actually led the charge on Vision Zero along with several council members. So council has been the forefront in leading that charge. So I do have to make sure that we acknowledge that. Thank you, sir. Next, we have Dale Anglin, Cleveland Heights, to talk about the topic of public safety plan and the Cleveland Project Thrive program. She's from the Cleveland Foundation, and she's not being paid by anyone to speak tonight.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. So the Cleveland Foundation believes that violence is more than a problem for police, courts, and politicians. Preventing violence requires each and every one of us, parents, young people, schools, businesses, hospitals, faith-based institutions, foundations, cultural groups, and more, working together to promote the preservation of life. I stand to you today before to support the passage of Ordinance 486-2023 about the Neighborhood Safety Fund. We must be willing to do everything possible to reduce and ultimately eliminate the likelihood of violence occurring in our homes, our schools, and our neighborhoods. A public health approach that addresses the root causes of violence and promotes increased access to supports and opportunities for peace is a distinct but complementary strategy to the criminal justice approach to public safety. The city and most local stakeholders have come together over the last few years to embrace this public health approach. They're working in ways we've not seen before, but they need support. Our foundation shares a deep sense of urgency in developing community-driven solutions to violence that could save lives. We know answers come from the people who are in the streets, not from the people who are in the suburbs. Unfortunately, there is no single quick solution to a problem that has been decades in the making and that has been exacerbated since the pandemic. The Cleveland Foundation has supported a number of organizations over the years in this space, but we too went back to the basics over the last couple of years and learned more. We went to see other cities. We talked to other people in the space. We worked with the city over the last year to help bring a federal grant to our doors so that we can help think about what's a plan to use these funds. We're pleased to be able to support this work further by hosting the Cleveland Neighborhood Safety Fund. These funds will exist to provide annual grant making that addresses violence prevention. We know violence is not going away anytime soon, and neither will these dollars. Because the Cleveland Foundation is holding these dollars, we will seek leverage. We anticipate seeking additional dollars as a return on this investment so that we can do even more grant making. These dollars will be able to fund projects in neighborhoods across the city that all of you and our constituents have been advocating for. We've talked to people on the streets. We know they want to go to programs like violence interrupters, healing and mental health services, out-of-school time programs for our kids, and training for young adults. We know we have to keep kids occupied. It's one of the reasons they're out doing not great things. The City of Cleveland will provide leadership and collaborate with partners to ensure that we are collectively addressing the root causes of violence. The foundation will not determine exactly how these dollars are spent. And we are in the process of working on a comprehensive violence prevention strategic plan that will involve, we hope, all city neighborhoods that will inform where these dollars go. This fund will allow us to, over time, ensure that we can execute on this plan and use our fund dollars wisely. As Mr. C said, we can't wait. There's too many things happening in the streets just this weekend. I thank you very much for listening and all the work you're already doing in this space.
Thank you. Next, we have Bethia Burke from University Heights, and she is here to talk about the SITE Fund, and she is representing Fund for Our Economic Future, but she is not being paid by anyone to speak tonight. Ms. Burke, thank you.
Thank you. Members of Council, my name is Bethia Burke, and I'm president of the Fund for Our Economic Future. We have been working on issues of equitable growth for 20 years, and I'm here to talk about site readiness and the SITE Fund. In our work, I talk about site readiness a lot. Without a place to land, a new business cannot be attracted to the city, and an existing business might not be able to stay. And when I talk about site readiness, I'm usually focused on the economic case. If sites are ready and available, closer to where workers live, companies have more access to talent. The talent finds it easier to get to work, which means it's more reliable, and this makes the business more productive and more profitable. The city can put vacant land to productive use, generating tax revenue. But what I hope you'll think about today, as you consider the value of an investment in site readiness, is the benefit to residents. More sites and ultimately more jobs closer to city residents means less time spent commuting, which means it's more time at home or an easier time picking up kids. It can also mean time for a worker to upskill or advance in a job. It's hard enough to enroll in a training program, but when you're working, it's almost impossible if you're commuting 2 to 3 hours a day. All the workforce training in the world doesn't get someone somewhere if there's no job for them to land in. It also means it's more likely for a resident to know somebody working nearby, which improves social access to jobs. Sufficiently funding site readiness will get Cleveland to the starting line to compete for these jobs, growing this opportunity for residents. And Cleveland can't compete today, because even though there's a lot of vacant land, that vacant land is not ready. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Christine Nelson from Lakewood. She's here to talk about the site redevelopment strategy. She's from Team NEO, and she is not being paid by anyone. Christine.
Hello. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Council members, for having me here. I am Christine Nelson. I run the Project Management and Site Strategies divisions of Team NEO. What that means is I work with my team and I work with 300 growing companies a year. And those are companies located here in the region and companies located all over the world. I personally have been doing this for about 15 years. So I understand how companies make location decisions and what they consider competitive and what they don't. Companies make decisions based on time, risk, and money. Those that are really smart right now are adding 3 other dimensions to those fundamental decision drivers of time, risk, and money. They're adding talent, equity, and sustainability. And this is where I think Cleveland has a really good opportunity to win. The Site Development Fund will allow Cleveland to be one step closer to being a competitive location. As Bethia said, we do not have the right sites in our region. We definitely do not have the right sites and buildings in Cleveland. By putting this money into the efforts to develop these sites and make them ready to go, we can get more businesses to make more investments here. Just like all of us, businesses are shopping online. They want to know where they can have a place to land, and they want to be able to see that place and all the information right away. They're making decisions and in 6 months or 3 months, and they want to be operational in 12 to 18 months. They don't have time to acquire land, to clean up land, to put all the pieces together. They're looking for the communities to do that. And so I commend you for taking this effort, and I hope that you will seriously consider the site development plan that's in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Murray from Ward 15. He wants to talk about affordable, accessible housing, and he is not representing anyone, and he is not being paid by anyone. Mr. Murray.
Good evening, Council President. My name is Pat Murray. I live in Ward 15. I'm a member of the Cleveland West Side Village, which is a mutual support organization for West Side seniors. I want to discuss with you the need for affordable, accessible, and safe housing for senior citizens in our city. I am sure you know that 16% of the people in our city are over 65. What you may not know is that the median household income for senior citizens is roughly $30,000. This level of income does not allow the average senior citizen to afford the average mortgage or rent in Cleveland with 30% of their income, which is the standard. If you are a senior with a disability, good luck finding any housing at all that meets your needs for accessibility. We are in danger of creating neighborhoods that will be devoid of senior citizens. I think that senior citizens in neighborhoods are good for our city. We are mostly home in the daytime, and we have eyes on our neighborhoods. Many of us make significant contributions to our neighborhood organizations. But we are in danger of being forced out of our neighborhoods by development that raises our property taxes while building new homes and apartments that are both too expensive and physically inaccessible. 2- and 3-story townhouses that cost in excess of $300,000 are out of our reach both physically and economically. We need to have the city change its priorities when it comes to housing. My review of the city housing equity plan found only a single initiative that speaks to the needs of seniors, and that is the Senior Housing Assistance Program, which focuses on health and safety repairs for very low-income senior citizens who are homeowners. New effort needs to go towards rehabilitation of existing homes into ones that offer accessible entrances and first-floor bedrooms and bathrooms. The first floor of many up and down doubles in the city could be renovated in such a manner. In new home construction, we need to find ways that encourage designs that are single floor and physically accessible. What I would suggest is that the city sit down with local seniors to examine what the city could do to create housing that meets our needs. We need support for home rehabilitation that's focused on improving physical accessibility. We also need building code modifications that demand physical accessibility in all new construction. I know that seniors are more than ready to engage such conversations with the council and with the leadership of the housing department of the city. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Next, we have Ellen Cubitt, Ward 3, to talk about reproductive freedom. Ellen is not representing anyone and is not being paid by anyone. Ellen, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council, fellow attendees, and the public. My name is Ellen Cubitt, 10-year-plus resident of Cleveland, lifelong resident of Northeast Ohio, and proud resident of Cleveland Ward 3, Precinct B. I am thankful to be here this evening to speak in support of Emergency Resolution 446, which is to condemn the tyrannical actions of Attorney General Dave Yost in his pursuit to control private business operations through his anti-choice agenda, and in support of Emergency Resolution 447, which refers to the state's current opportunity to enshrine the right to reproductive freedom in this state's constitution. I am thankful for Councilors Gray, House, Moyer, Santana, and Spencer for recognizing that every public representative should care about reproductive freedom. Right now, there is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play a direct role in ensuring politicians cannot make decisions about one's body, about one's reproductive health care, about one's family planning. Speaking to any member of the Ohio public who happens to be listening, please do not throw away your vote this November. Right now, go to the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections website and confirm you are registered to vote. Confirm you have the appropriate voter identification, as the enemies of democracy are working very hard to disenfranchise you. I simply cannot emphasize this enough. We have to be ready for this November's election. And for ward leaders who also serve on City Council, this is a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate the significance of serving in both positions. Empower your ward clubs, block clubs, and constituents to sign and circulate petitions. Ensure there are ample opportunities that your constituents are registered to vote and have the appropriate form of identification. We simply cannot waste this opportunity. You do not have to be a woman, you do not have to have a uterus to understand why the government should not dictate decisions between you and your doctor and you and your significant other. Please take this seriously. Get involved. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Ellen Arendas Zamborski from Ward 3 to talk about reproductive rights. She's not representing anyone and is not being paid by anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. My name is Mary Ellen Zamborski, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. And I stand before you, something I've never done before a government body before, because I want to express my unequivocal support for emergency resolutions 446 and 447 put forth by Council members Jenny Spencer, Rebecca Maurer, Jasmine Santana, Stephanie Howes, and Deborah Gray. I am in total agreement with Resolution 446, which opposes Ohio Attorney General David Yost's signature on a letter to CVS and Walgreens, warning them against dispensing and mailing mifepristone to women in the state of Ohio. This letter sends a clear message that the Republican Party, in a very gerrymandered state, is putting their personal beliefs and agendas before the reproductive health and rights of women in Ohio. This strategy to interfere with women's health care decisions is nothing short of an attack on our fundamental human rights. In a society where we value individual freedoms and choices, it is appalling to see such blatant disregard for women's autonomy over their own bodies. It's important to note that medical professionals and healthcare providers are best equipped to make healthcare decisions, not judges, not politicians, and not attorneys with a political agenda. Sunday's Plain Dealer ran a story about the unethical behavior of the Texas judge who ruled that the sale of mifepristone should be halted. How is this man qualified to rule on a medication that's been on the market for 23 years? He is not. I am also in total agreement with Resolution 447, supporting the reproductive rights ballot initiative. The attempt by Ohio Republican legislators to change the right to amend Ohio's Constitution from a current simple majority of 50% plus one to a 60% vote of the electorate is another example of an attempt to silence the voices of the people of Ohio. This change would make it almost impossible for future generations to have a say in issues that affect them, which is a direct violation of our basic rights to representation in a democracy. Here's another first for me. I have never collected signatures for a petition, but I have a petition that I'm circulating in support of the Reproductive Rights Ballot Initiative. This is so important to me that I've had to get involved. I have had to step up to make sure that my voice is heard and the voices of the majority of Ohioans are heard. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. That ends public comment. Madam Clerk, please share communications.
File number 459, 2023, from Senior Strategist Callie Mersman, Office of the Mayor, City of Cleveland, pursuant to Ordinance 370, 2022, Complete and Green Streets, notice of acceptance of technical assistance award from City Thread for services valued at $50,000 for the development of the city's active transportation plan. File number 492, 2023, from Amanda Gordon, Counsel to University Circle, Inc., pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 1710, in connection with the creation of the University Circle Special Improvement District, Articles of Incorporation, Initial Services Plan, and executed petitions of property owners received. From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, file number 460, 2023, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 16826 Lakeshore Boulevard, Ward 8. File number 461, 2023, regarding a transfer of license application at 6226 Memphis Avenue, Ward 13. File number 462, 2023, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 10664 Carnegie Avenue, Ward 6. File number 463, 2023, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 9901 Loretta Avenue, Ward 11.
Thank you. Are there any condolence resolutions?
Resolutions of condolence by Councilmember Conwell for Marcella Cleveland Atterbury, by Councilmember Jones for James Rodriguez Williams, by Councilmember Jones for Tyrone Stephen Gillum, by Councilmember Jones for John Linton Chenault, by Councilmember Jones for Lucy Leontine Burpo, by Councilmember McCormack for Denny McCormack, by Councilmember Polensik for Anna Anika Kuntz, by, resolutions. That was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other condolences? Seeing no other condolences, will all council members rise for a moment of silence? Thank you. Congratulatory resolutions.
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember Griffin for Aisha N. Luton, by Councilmember Jones for Wendell H. Fields Baseball League on their 10th anniversary, by Councilmember Starr for Beta Lambda Omega Chapter Iota Phi Theta Fraternity. Resolution of recognition by Councilmember Griffin for American Public Works Association.
Thank you. No presentations today. First reading emergency ordinance is referred for administrative review and committee review.
Ordinance 464, 2023 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request to amend Section 2 of Ordinance 1294, 2022 relating to establishment of the Strategic Priority Subfund. Ordinance 465, 2023 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request to authorize the Director of Finance to enter into an amendment to a contract with ACL Services Limited for audit management software as a service or audit management software and other services for the Department of Finance to extend the term of the contract for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 466, 2023 by Councilmember House to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio by amending Section 16201 as amended by Ordinance 373, 2022 and enacting new Section 173.18 relating to compensation for Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls. Ordinance 467, 2023 by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more written standard purchase and requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Johnson Controls for labor and materials needed to maintain, repair, and expand proprietary fire alarm and suppression systems, including any parts, materials, equipment, supplies, services, and installations necessary for the various divisions of the Department of Port Control for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 468, 2023 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio by enacting new section 143.05 relating to agreements for student intern and extern programs. Ordinance 469, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, determining the method of making the public improvement of the demolition and removal of the existing security guard station at 12302 Kirby Avenue, installing a new security guard station, and making site improvements, and authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvement. Ordinance 470, 2023 by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to provide executive airport development programming, financing, planning, design, and related services, and authorizing the Director to apply for and accept any grants, gifts, or services from any public or private entity for the Department of Port Control for a period of 1 year with 4 two-year options to renew, the third of which requires additional legislative authority. Ordinance 471, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts of various types of fencing, gate operators, gates, vertical pivot lift gates, barriers, walls, and guardrails, including associated appurtenances and labor and materials necessary to repair or maintain existing equipment and appurtenances, including installation, if necessary, at various facilities for the divisions of the Department of Public Utilities for a period of up to 2 years. Ordinance 473, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts for landscape materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed for testing, maintaining, installing, repairing, and replacing landscaping at city-owned or leased public utility facilities and city right-of-ways for the divisions of water, water pollution control, and Cleveland Public Power, and the Office of Radio Communications, Department of Public Utilities, for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 472, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts for the purchase of services and materials necessary to maintain and repair pumps, electric motors, controls, and appurtenances, including but not limited to inspection, supplies, repairing, and testing, if necessary, for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a period of up to 2 years. Ordinance 474, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of petroleum-based fuels for backup generators, including delivery and supporting services for the various divisions of the Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 475, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of valves, actuators, and appurtenances, and labor and materials needed to repair, replace, maintain, exercise, and test existing valves, valve actuators, and valve appurtenances, and to provide related services for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 476, 2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a utilities repair agreement with the County of Cuyahoga to pay or reimburse directly related costs incurred by the county for the repair of storm and sanitary sewer lines on an as-needed basis for a period of 2 years, with one option to renew for an additional 1-year period exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities. Ordinance 480, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to employ one or more consultants, computer software developers, or vendors, or one or more firms of consultants, computer software developers, or vendors necessary to implement various technology projects, services, and upgrades to existing systems under the 2023 ITS Capital Project Plan, other related professional services to implement the plan, and to enter into various contracts to implement this ordinance. Ordinance 481, 2023, by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more maintenance and repair agreements to reimburse up to 5 signatory airlines for costs needed to provide repairs, preventative maintenance, and renovation services for leased city-owned passenger boarding bridges for the Division of Airports, Department of Port Control. Ordinance 482, 2023, by Councilmembers Jones, Bishop, Gray, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into or cause to be entered into one or more agreements to provide economic development assistance for commercial corridor projects in Cleveland's southeast side neighborhoods and other agreements, and authorizing the Director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services for any public or private entity. Ordinance 483, 2023, by Councilmembers Jones, Bishop, Gray, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Directors of Community Development and Economic Development, as appropriate, to enter into one or more agreements for professional services necessary to prepare several vacant sites for the development, and authorizing other agreements, authorizing the Directors to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity, authorizing the Mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire, accept, and record all real property and permanent and temporary easements to implement this ordinance, and authorizing other contracts. Ordinance 484, 2023, by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to employ one or more professional consultants to administer, implement, and manage the Department of Public Utilities Youth Employment Program, and authorizing one or more contracts with public entities, individuals, or communities for purposes of implementing the program for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities, and authorizing the Director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity. Ordinance 485, 2023, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements with United Way of Greater Cleveland as the lead partner organization to implement a program to provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings under Section 375.12 of the Codified Ordinances, Legal Representation in Housing Court. Ordinance 486, 2023, by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into a donor-advised agreement with the Cleveland Foundation to establish, manage, and implement a City of Cleveland Neighborhood Safety Fund to provide grants for programs, interventions, and initiatives serving Cleveland residents and address the root causes of and the effects from violence. Ordinance 487, 2023, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into one or more contracts with Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation, aka the County Land Bank, for professional services to implement and manage a site readiness for good jobs project for future redevelopment and job attraction and retention, authorizing other agreements, and authorizing the appropriate Director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity. Ordinance 488, 2023, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, determining the method of making the public improvement of constructing improvements to the North Coast Harbor identified under the Capital Improvement Plan, and authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvement, and authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into various written standard purchase and requirement contracts needed for the purchase of lighting, signage, landscaping, and other outdoor furnishings and amenities, including labor and installation, to implement the Capital Improvement Plan for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 489, 2023, by Council Members Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, determining the method of making the public improvement of constructing roadway traffic calming and park and recreation improvements under the Back to Basics Citywide Infrastructure Improvement Program, including making site improvements and appurtenances, and authorizing the Director of Public Works or Capital Projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvement contracts, professional services, and other contracts to apply for and accept grants and gifts, and authorizing the direct employment of necessary labor for the Department of Public Works Office of Capital Projects. Ordinance 490, 2023, by Council Members Jones, Bishop, Gray, Hairston, and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements for professional services to establish, implement, and manage a revolving loan fund for a home repair and rehabilitation program for Cleveland's Southeast Side neighborhoods, and to enter into other agreements, and authorizing the Director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity.
First reading emergency resolutions referred for administrative review and committee review.
Resolution 477, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin, declaring April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Cleveland. Resolution 478, 2023, by Councilmembers Starr and Conwell, opposing House Bill 12 that renames the State Department of Education to the Department of Education and Workforce, and revises and transfers most of its powers and duties to the newly created governor-appointed Director of Education and Workforce.
First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 479, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin, fixing the 2023 summer schedule of meetings of the Council of the City of Cleveland. Resolution 491, 2023, by Councilmember House, designating April 11th to April 17th, 2023 as Black Maternal Health Week in Cleveland, and recognizing Black Birth Matters, a collaborative partnership between Birthing Beautiful Communities, Pregnant with Possibilities Resource Center, and Village of Healing for their ongoing efforts to raise awareness for Black maternal and infant health.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Spencer, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on adoption.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 140, 2023, by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, directing a portion of the city's coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund payment to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts by improving effective delivery of government services with respect to the digital scanning, indexing, and other related services of the Bureau of Fire Prevention's occupancy incident reports, and authorizing one or more requirement contracts for such scanning to be encumbered March 3rd, 2021, and ending December 31st, 2024. Ordinance 251, 2023, by Council Members Spencer, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to accept a gift of real estate from the NRP Group, LLC, or its designee, for purposes of planning, designing, and constructing a trail to connect the Cleveland Lakefront Bikeway to Herman Park. Ordinance 282, 2023, by Council Members Griffin, Bishop, and Hairston, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into a maintenance, inspection, and repair agreement with and to issue a permit to the Cleveland Clinic Foundation to encroach into the public right-of-way above East 89th Street by constructing, installing, using, and maintaining an overhead pedestrian bridge. Ordinance 328, 2023, by Council Members Polensek and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Safety to accept a donation of magnetometers from the Cleveland Browns Stadium, LLC, for use by the Division of Police. Ordinance 332, 2023, as amended by Mayor Bibb, directing a portion of the city's coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund payment to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts by engaging Ernst & Young LLP to provide professional services to develop a strategic plan modernizing City Hall operations in furtherance of improving the design and execution of programs responding to the public health emergency or its negative impacts, and authorizing agreements for same for an amount not to exceed $1.55 million to be encumbered March 3rd, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2024. Ordinance 394, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance to enter into amendments to a contract with Cuyahoga Community College District with College Now Greater Cleveland to continue to provide evidence or research-based programs and activities in city neighborhood resource and recreation centers for up to 18 additional months. Ordinance 395, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into an amendment to a contract with Ohio Guidestone to continue to provide evidence of research-based programs and activities in city neighborhood resource and recreation centers for up to 18 additional months. Ordinance 396, 2023, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into an agreement with CHN Housing Partners and/or its affiliates to provide emergency rental assistance to qualified residents.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Spencer, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Second reading, emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 446, 2023, by Councilmembers House, Moore, Spencer, Santana, Gray, Griffin, and Casey, opposing Ohio General Dave Yost for signing the letter from Republican Attorneys General to CVS and Walgreens, warning against dispensing and mailing abortion pills and rebuking Walgreens for bowing to political pressure and declaring it will not dispense certain abortion pills in Ohio. Resolution 447, 2023, by Councilmembers Spencer, Moore, Santana, House, Gray, Casey, and Griffin, supporting the Reproductive Rights Ballot Initiative, the right to reproductive freedom with protections for health and safety, and a citizen's right to gather signatures to amend the Ohio Constitution with a simple majority of 50% plus one vote of the electorate.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
by Councilmember Spencer that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
Call the roll. Oh, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate very much the leadership of the Women on Council for sponsoring 446 and 447. As a lifelong advocate for reproductive freedom and rights, I'd also like to be, without their objection, added to 446 and 447.
Thank you. And I believe that Councilman Starr would like to be added as well. And I thought that I was on there earlier from myself and Councilman Conwell.
So noted.
Okay, is there any objection to all of council? Okay, if there is no objection, will all of council be added? And if you do, please acknowledge to the clerk. All right, thank you. All right, please proceed if all council could be added to that. All right. What?
Call the roll on suspension.
Call the roll on suspension.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on adoption.
That was it.
That was it?
Adoption. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll move to introductions. Any introductions? Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to introduce 4 of our leaders. I don't know how to quite spin this. Of the Westside Market Tenants Association who are with us here tonight. So if you could please stand to be recognized. One of our vendors who have been in the trenches, Mr. Chairman, in the good, the bad, the ugly, and reform at the Westside Market. So I want to welcome them here tonight. So.
Thank you. Are there any other introductions? Any other introductions? Councilwoman Jenny Spencer.
Thanks, Council President. I'd like to recognize Matthew Thomas. He is a proud Ward 15 resident of the Cadell neighborhood. He is also our Ward 15 Democratic Club president, and he is here along with others this evening to support reproductive rights and the health of democracy. And the Ward 15 and Ward 3, I'm shouting out Councilman McCormick, of course, as well. Democratic clubs have been so diligent in circulating the reproductive rights petitions, and I'm so proud of their work and their leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just for curiosity, there was council added to both of those because it was 2. It was a reproductive one, and then it was for both of those. Okay, just want to make sure. All right, thank you so much. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Thank you very, very much. I want to recognize, he spoke up here earlier. Is he still here? Charles C. that was here. Charles is being honored. Matter of fact, he is nationally recognized dealing with ex-offenders, fatherhood movement, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, as you know, Council President Charles he's been an activist for almost 50 years, helping to get back into the community, and he gives back a lot. There's another person I want to recognize also. A lot of people, Dave Abbott, who was here. Dave, boy, he was over the Gun Foundation, and Dave is one of the leaders. When you see people like Chris Ronayne, Dave Abbott mentored a lot of these guys to be and to give back what they're doing today. So Dave Abbott, when he was speaking about the West Side Market, I've been knowing that guy and of his great work for many, many, many years. For Dave Abbott also for close to 50 years, Starr and McCormack, you know, for quite some time, man. And Santana, for 50 years, this guy been giving back. And where were you at? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Seeing that there are no more introductions, any announcements? I believe Councilwoman House has 2 announcements she'd like to make.
I just added a third one. No, thank you, Mr. Council President. First and foremost, I want to extend an invitation to everyone to join Councilman Charles Slife and I as over the next 4 weeks or so, the YWCA of Greater Cleveland is sponsoring the Racial Justice Challenge. If people are not familiar with it, it is a curated experience, videos, things that you can read that really talks about racial justice. There's a focus this year on disabilities, and day one is focusing on eugenics, but I think it really is built to raise people's awareness regarding racial justice, and me and him, as we are members on the RAPC coalition, thought that this would be a good exercise for us to kind of go through it and engage in some meaningful dialogue. And so wanted to just extend this invitation to Clevelanders and council members and others. So feel free to join us if you like. Secondly, also wanted to know April 22nd is Earth Day coming up, and there's a friendly competition going on. Famigos Foundation is doing Spruce Up CLE, so Ward 7 is clearly going to beat Ward 9 and Ward 10 when it comes to cleaning up. We have a friendly neighborhood cleaning competition, 9 a.m. going on at Ward 7, Ward 9, and Ward 10. Ward 7 is going to win. Stay tuned. But just wanted to put that out in the universe and let us know that we got some friendly competition going on here for Earth Day. Wanted to raise that up. And then finally, beginning on Sunday, April 23rd through April 29th, Cuyahoga County is doing the Cuyahoga County Office of Reentry has Reentry Week. So there are so many different events going on for Reentry Week beginning Sunday, and just wanted to put that on people's radars. If you are not familiar with it, there are so many wonderful events that are going on. I'm really just trying to be in partnership with those who are justice involved and those who have really been contributing to our community. And so I just wanted to take a moment to make sure that our body knows about it and that Clevelanders who are tuning in can participate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Council Lady. I believe I have Councilwoman Rebecca Mora for an announcement.
Yeah, and next year I got to get on the cleanup. We'll have to all do one because mine was also for Earth Day. Ward 12, we spread our cleanups out across multiple weekends. So this weekend, April 22nd for Earth Day at 9:30, you can come to Mural Park in Slavic Village. At 10 o'clock, you can come to Greater Heights Church of Christ on Willowdale Avenue, where we'll be cleaning up Brooklyn Center. On Sunday, we will be in Old Brooklyn at Henninger Park at 11 a.m. Then next weekend, East 63rd Street Block Club. Come to the Lincoln Post if you haven't been into one of the most old school Slavic Village bars. It's a great opportunity. And then lastly, on May 5th, I know a lot of our communities have river sweep, but of course, because we have the Cuyahoga River in Ward 12, we have a lot of opportunities for cleanups at river sweep. So I hope to see some of you there.
Thank you. Councilwoman Spencer, announcements.
Council President, I have to jump on the cleanup bandwagon. Ward 15 is also holding a cleanup, although I'll confess that when we first scheduled it, I didn't know it was Earth Day. Next year, I would love to join the competition. Our cleanups are at 10 o'clock on Saturday at West 95th Street in the Cadell neighborhood and West 73rd and Elton in the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood. So next year, I'm signing up for the competition. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Seeing no more announcements, we'll move to announcements or miscellaneous. Announcements, Councilman Joseph Jones.
I'd be remiss not to sit here and not announce my colleague Mike Polensek being honored tomorrow as Class of 2023 in the National Hall of Fame.
You stole my thunder. Thank you. I was going to try to do a big old announcement about that, and you stole the thunder, Councilman Jones. But that's all right, though. That just means you get less time for the miscellaneous. Good. Councilman Richard Starr, announcements.
I like that ending of that statement. A quick announcement, me and a few of my colleagues, Councilman Conwell and Councilman Jones and Dan Kelly, we're going down 71 South to fight against House Bill 12. You know how we feel about the House Bill 12. We've got a work to do for the city of Cleveland.
Awesome. Commend you guys for doing that. That's great. All right, and then just a quick announcements. I know that some of us will be going to the CUBE Summit, and I know that Councilman Hairston, myself, and I believe Councilwoman Santana and Spencer and a couple of others, and Mara. So I know that we're going to be really having an ambitious community benefits ordinance that we're trying to roll out. So these are some of the folks that hopefully we can get the buy-in of what we're trying to do. Miscellaneous, any miscellaneous, and Councilman Starr has asked for more time. So I'll start out with Councilman Starr, then Councilwoman House, and then Councilman Chris Harsh. Councilman Starr.
Good evening, my colleagues and everyone. I definitely wanted to rise today because, you know, when it's time to speak up, that's something we must do. And with all of this at buttons and all this tagging us in every issue that goes on without coming to us as individuals is going to have to stop, because we get held accountable for every action that we don't have. So I just wanted to make sure I say it's a shame that we often don't fight and lobby for what is needed for the city of Cleveland. Allocating $15 million to the West Side Market is a sign of disrespect, and it shows that the administration is not working for the greater good of equity needed in our city. We must stop trying to give to the more fortunate while forgetting the less fortunate, such as neighborhoods on the east side of the city of Cleveland. Since Dave's Supermarket have left some of our neighborhoods, we have had far greater need of a food desert than anything else. When I'm talking about a food desert, I'm talking about a Central, the Northeast side, and then today we have to rely on gas stations, Dollar Generals for food in our neighborhoods. We have more undeveloped land on the east side where grass cutting has become a revolving issue that has to be funded daily. We have many vacant boarded up houses, buildings, old churches, old factories, and the administration does not have an actual plan to address these issues. But instead, we say, hey, we want to make sure we fix the infrastructure and repairing the roof, Fastcade, adding air conditioning, upgrades, heating, electrical, water infrastructure, and improving accessibility to the West Side Market. What about the overhaul prioritizing infrastructure updates on home repairs for all residents in need of support in the city of Cleveland? We often forget about the neighborhoods that need help. Instead, we give to the more privileged people. 24% of Clevelanders that live in the city shopped at the market last year, West Side Market. 92% of the respondents in a 2019 internet poll about the West Side Market were white. The head of the tenant organization don't even live in the city of Cleveland. Black people and Latinos each made up 3% of that poll from 2019 audience. We know this is not the overall makeup of the West Side Market shoppers, but it demonstrates that we must focus on diversity and equity and funding on these decisions that we have to make as a council. Yes, we love the West Side Market. We love our neighborhoods too. We have to, and we still have to, strategically determine where the critical ARPA funding will go. People argue that we are trying to defund the West Side Market. That's what they like to tag on social media. And that's not the case. Instead, why don't we invest in the East Side Market? As the council, we know our communities and neighborhoods. We want to bring the greater good to the most significant number across the country, of the city. This council is focused on making investments and impact for Clevelanders. We want to invest ARPA funding in home ownership programs in the neighborhoods that have been redlined for decades. Home renovation programs, reducing Black infant mortality rates, more affordable housing. Residents in Ward 5 are living in public housing estates that were built in the 1930s when Carl B. Stokes lived there. But we ain't did no renovations or upgrades to that. We ain't fought or did no advocating or coming up with a plan to address that. We need down payment assistance, gap financing, violence prevention program. We don't have time for a plan. We need results like tomorrow. Fixing more streets in our neighborhoods, veteran housing, Invest in good quality grocery stores. We need to be leveraging these dollars to make sure we can cover the gap so other businesses can come in and address this food deficit in our neighborhoods. So contrary to the social media posts, all the tags, we read them. We are investing in our communities that are in the areas that will make the most vulnerable impact. We will do the right thing and deliberate this ask, and how can we serve our communities and our neighborhoods. In conclusion, if it needs to be fixed in areas that are in parts of the city that are not urban, should we as council just shut up and dribble? That's not going to happen here. Remember, everyone is entitled to the process, but it is not and will not be entitled to the outcomes.
Thank you, Councilman. I have Councilwoman Stephanie House, and then Councilman Chris Harsh, and then Councilman Kevin Conwell, and then Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make note of resolution number 491-2023, highlighting the Black Maternal Health Week, which ran, this is the last day of it, it ran from April 11th through April 17th, so thanks everybody for supporting it. For those who did not know, this year's theme is Our Bodies Belong to Us, Restoring Black Autonomy and Joy. And, you know, as we think about what COVID-19 has done for us, like, you know, there are, you know, initial reports and studies that talk about the impact in our society on health that we all are going to be experiencing for years to come. And I think many times we as a local government are just not fully prepared to really address the recovery from that for the years to come. As the ARPA dollars are coming to a close, we really are going to have to put our heads together to really think about how do we serve people very differently, and what do we do to help ensure that Black babies and Black families truly do have a thriving existence here in the city of Cleveland. So, you know, I didn't want to be remiss and not just take some time to lift this up, and hopefully, and moving forward, that we will partner with the Black Babies Equity, this collaboration being established between Birthing Beautiful Communities, Pregnant with Possibilities Resource Center, and the Village of Healing. They are doing some amazing and innovative work. And I really think that we really should invest in these organizations. They are not the multi-billion dollar healthcare systems, but they are doing the work and they have the results, and they are centering Black babies and Black families, and they should be financially invested to that tune. They have solutions, and during Black Maternal Health Week, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that I lifted this up because these are 3 organizations that are Black-led, and they have very skilled people, and they are doing the work, and we need to be investing in them, whether it's City Hall, Cuyahoga County, the state of Ohio, the federal government, and I will do whatever I can in my power to continue to raise that up because, again, comparatively and unlike our hospital systems, they're doing the results. So I really want to bring that up. Finally, I also just want to remind each of us to make sure that we are taking care of themselves. Last week, excuse me, I had a health scare, and thank you to the one person that called to check on me. I'm gonna try not to give a tear, but there are times in this role that you're doing so much that you're not paying attention to the signs that your body is giving you that you're doing too much. And I am, again, shout out to Black healthcare professionals, Miss Denise, who texted me and told me, stop what you're doing, go to the emergency room.
Take your time, Councilwoman. Take your time.
I'm just really grateful. It was just divine intervention how I met Miss Denise. I went to Vitamin Candy, the vegan shop with Miss Mary, and she gave me a card to say, hey, Mary Johnson, and she gave me a card to say, hey, check out this group, Healthy Solutions, and I just happened to go, and if I hadn't have went, they wouldn't have had my blood work to knew that something was really wrong with me, and I would have never had somebody to say, hey, drop what you're doing, go to the emergency room because you need to be looked at, and this is, it's just an example of when you have healthcare professionals who see you, who pay attention to you, they save lives. And I'm a testament of that. Even being in the emergency room, I could tell, like, the one nurse was just looking at me and they couldn't believe that I was just standing and talking. And they was taking it serious, but they were looking at me and they could see the blood work, but it wasn't aligning. And it wasn't until they got another round of blood work to say, oh my God, we have to do something. And so this is the reason why I wanted to lift up our Black organizations, because they save lives. And it was somebody else that did that for me last week. And I'm just very grateful.
Council Lady, a lot of people don't know it takes courage for what you just sat up and done, and I'm pretty sure that people are watching all across the city of Cleveland, and I'm almost certain that you've inspired several people, even amongst this body, that often ignore their own health needs in order to serve the citizens of the city of Cleveland. But just know that we're all here for you, and as I tell all of my colleagues, you and family first. We'll all cover your back if you ever need any downtime. I believe in this body and taking care of yourself first and your family first, and then we'll take care of each other later, okay? Thank you. All right, I have Councilman Kevin Conwell, Councilman Conwell, I apologize. I have Harsh. Their mics fall down in the back. So Harsh, I have Councilman Harsh, Conwell, McCormick, Jones. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilwoman. Honesty is a tough road to follow, and you do it so well, and thank you for providing that example for all of us. But Council President, I want to talk about the issue that seems to be at hand tonight. Over the next few weeks, this body is going to discuss the fate of tens of millions of dollars. We're going to wrap up the ARPA allocations, and people are going to keep showing up for public comment about this, and people are going to keep lobbying. It occurred to me last week, Mr. President, that when you put a bunch of money into a project that people like, they call it strategic investment, but when you put a bunch of money into a project they don't like, they call it a pet project. And when you advocate for something that people like, they call it championing a cause, but when you advocate for something they don't like, they call it a slush fund. And it occurs to me that what we're all doing is we're looking at the needs in our neighborhoods. And on Saturday night, I took my wife downtown to a show, and the Cavs were playing just a block over, and we were on East 4th after the show, and it was really amazing. It was tremendous. There were thousands of people out. There was a nightlife. There were people in the streets. It was a really great feeling of a city that was alive. Shake Shack was out of shakes, which just turned them into a shack, and I'm still upset about this. But aside from that, everything was clicking down there, and it was a good experience, and everybody was having a good time. And this is the result of decades of investment by the city of Cleveland, by people that came here long before me, deciding that downtown needed an investment because we needed to be a vibrant urban center. And they succeeded. And I'm thinking about the types of investment that this city needs, and I want to remind everybody about the one thing that housing professionals and urban planning and design professionals across the country agree on, and that's the importance of investing in middle neighborhoods. The reason that the Cavs were relevant to me that night is that I was reminded of a term from the NBA called basketball hell. And if you've never heard about this, this is a term for teams that finish 41-41. If you don't follow basketball, there's 82 games in a season. So if you go 41-41, you went 50%, you went 500. You're in basketball hell. because you're not going to attract top talent to come to your city and play for your team because you're not good enough, and you're not going to get the investment of getting the first pick in the draft because you're not bad enough. And that's what a middle neighborhood is. A middle neighborhood is stuck in basketball hell. We go 41-41 year after year. We fight, we dig it out, we never give up, we never complain, we never throw in the towel, but we just don't attract the big investment because we're not successful enough, and we don't fail enough to get the investment from people saying that we need to be flooded with assistance. So we just keep chugging along in basketball hell. And that's why every housing professional in America agrees, from the Lincoln Land Institute to the Neighborhood Progress, everybody agrees that focused investment in middle neighborhoods is the best way to get long-term results from small, concentrated investment dollar amounts. And we have that ability to do that with ARPA funds. We have the ability to activate what I think is at least a third of Cleveland falls into a middle neighborhood, from Cams and Jefferson to Old Brooklyn down to Lee Harvard up to Nottingham Green and Collinwood. These are all the edge neighborhoods. These are the middle neighborhoods that don't need hundreds of millions of dollars. We don't need even dozens of millions. We just need targeted investment to make these neighborhoods keep going for another 50 to 100 years. And I would like to encourage everyone to think about how we can be really smart with this money and make sure that our investments are lasting past us. These are investments that can be generational. These can last our neighborhoods for a whole other generation or two. Just like investments 50, 60, 70 years have gotten us this far, we can do that again. I want everybody to encourage that and get us out of basketball hell. Let's make a little bit of investment so that we can go into the playoffs just like the Cavs, who are going to even it up tomorrow and beat New York, all right?
All right. Good job, Chris. All right, thank you. Next, I have Councilman Kevin Conwell, then Councilman Kerry McCormick, and then Councilman Joseph Jones. No, Mr. President. Everyone, please acknowledge your times, too. I'm not just saying that for Councilman Conwell. I just want to make sure everybody. Okay, thank you.
What you said is spot on, man. When that $15 million, I mean, when you look at, it's a slap in the face to Glenville, to Huff. You just lost a grocery store over there in your neighborhood, Councilmember Mike Polensek, and then you say, I just want to put $15 million here. I remember a resident telling me, because they put no money into the East Side Market. That's how you got there with this other group that purchased the East Side Market. And when you look at my neighborhood, when you look at Huff, when you look at Central, and you look at healthcare, you have people with diabetes, a lot of people with diabetes. You have cancer, you have strokes, because people are going to a gas station just to get some food. Just to get some food, Mr. Health Director, to a gas station. And then you talk about giving one area $15 million? How? And then the residents, you know what? They'll blame that on me, Councilman Conwell. They'll blame it on Councilmember Joe Jones. They'll blame it on Councilmember Kevin Bishop. They'll blame it on us. But it's not us with the $15 million that came up with that idea. How can you do that when you have people walking with crutches and canes and they're going to a gas station just to get some food? That's sad, man. What we need to do again, Mr. President, is have a ride around the neighborhood so that our other council members will be able to see what's going on, not just in the good areas, but we can look at the focus on buildings that we're building so that we can see the abject poverty on Durant, on Tuscarora, on Lakeview, where they're shooting at, because place matters. And as my colleagues, Mike Polensek, have said for over 20 years, they're voting with their feet. They're leaving the community. And then when you say $15 million today to the West Side Market, it's a slap in the face to Ms. Jones. It's a slap in the face to Martha Thomas and all the rest of them. You gotta have a grocery stores in the community. We need it too. Don't we deserve that also on the east side? Don't we deserve that, Councilman Starr? We deserve that, man, when people can walk and go to the grocery store. So that's very, very important. Let me move right along. Also, I want to make an announcement. Metro, Dr. Charles Motlin and I didn't do it on the announcements, on April 27th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. at Metro Main Campus at Cleveland Heights Medical Center, as well as Ohio City Health Center. It's a Males Wellness Health Day. You matter, understand your risk, take control of your health. That is very, very, very important. And as you know, what you mentioned, I almost died here in this body. Only thing I focused on was working with my residents. I never stopped. Never had a balance in my life. Just constantly getting 80% of the vote. One time, 92% of the vote. Just working. Ms. Jones called me, had a dental appointment. You know, I would cancel it. If I had another appointment, I would cancel the appointment. And then I went to a checkup and I had a big tumor in my colon because I didn't pay attention to my body. And I ended up this battle, 7-year battle, with colon cancer. Colon cancer, 3B. The next one is 4. The next one is 4. After every single phone call, issue after issue after issue after issue after issue. So you stop because we love our residents, but you're right, Council Lady, you gotta love yourself also. We had to put, when I was at Cleveland Clinic, Yvonne Conwell, my wife, as I told you, had to put confidentiality so I can survive. And then I had to go to the west side over there at St. John Medical Center to have some freedom and privacy so that when I meet with my doctor every 6 months. But what you gotta do, I'm telling the younger ones, you gotta have that balance. You gotta have that balance. And this summer, look at this summer, we're gonna receive 40, 50 to 60 calls a day. And someone from the Bibb administration was saying, Councilman, you get 60 calls a day. Sometimes you will. If it's gunshots, if the right ear is closing, and you have no grocery store, and you have no grocery store. I'm talking about from experience. Experience, man, I almost died, man. I almost died. People don't see that part. You know it, I talk with you about it. They don't know the other part about what's going on. So we need help from the administration also. When we call you, workers gotta come through and they gotta work. Because when we are at our meetings, you know who they turn and blame it on? Us. All right. When the house is not boarded up, when the grass is too high in the neighborhood, when the police don't show up, when there's gunshots going on in the community, I had SWAT on my front porch. On my front porch, because I went to ride with the police to do knock and talk. To do knock and talk because the police didn't show up. Because they blame us in the meetings. Do you know what I'm saying? We get blamed for it. Gotta return those calls. Gotta answer the phone calls.
Councilman.
But I'm passionate about it because the summer's gonna come. And last summer was horrible. It was just horrible last summer. They blame us. And that's terrible. We ride the neighborhood, we write down quality of life issues, we write down catch basins, we tell you where their gunshots are at, and I don't blame the residents because all they know is Kerry McCormick or Santana
Councilman,
or
we
Richard
gave you extra
Starr.
time.
But it's just there, you feel it.
I gotta make sure
and
that
we get
follow
blamed
the
for
rules.
it, and I'm just telling you, and it's not good. It's just really not good, you know? So thank you very much, and sorry for going over, but it's the reality.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have Councilman Kerry McCormick, Councilman Joseph Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you allowing me up tonight. Chair, on the occasion of my 7th anniversary on Cleveland City Council, as you know, I don't make a ton of floor speeches, and I also don't engage in tit for tats. I'm a big fan of doing work in partnerships and not through floor speeches. But I will say this, that I think the conversation we're having, Mr. President, around ARPA funding is healthy. Contrary to what some have said in the public, we used to operate in a system where everything was done, you know, not publicly and not with these community dialogues. So I actually think, Mr. President, that the conversation is healthy. And I also want to acknowledge, Mr. President, that you have been unfairly targeted by certain individuals online and otherwise on your commitment to the community and to neighborhoods, and I want to acknowledge that, that you have been unfairly targeted for that. Mr. Chairman, while we can have these robust conversations, I just want to make a couple comments. The best way to sink our city is pitting neighborhood versus neighborhood. That is the best way to sink our city. The best way to tell the 59 other municipalities in Cuyahoga County and the region that Cleveland isn't serious is by individual members of council going against each other's wards. So while I appreciate the dialogue, I appreciate the robust conversation, we must recognize, as has been my record for 7 years on council, I've cheer-led and sponsored and promoted investments around the city of Cleveland, because fundamentally, as someone who grew up in a different ward and lives on a ward on the west side now, I know, and I think we should all embrace, Mr. Chairman, that Woodhill Estates is going to benefit the entire city, that 250 jobs in Central is going to benefit the entire city, that a lakefront investment in Collinwood is going to benefit the entire city, that investment in West Park is going to benefit the entire city. There's no walls in our wards, Mr. Chairman. No one cares about our ward lines. These types of economic investments throughout the city of Cleveland benefit all of our neighborhoods, and we had better understand that we are one Cleveland. Because the second, Mr. Chairman, that we slip into infighting, Lakewood, Richmond Heights, Euclid, Garfield will eat our lunch. Mr. Chair, I also want to discuss a couple things about the West Side Market, clarify a couple things. Once again, the budgeting conversation we're having, I think, is healthy. I know it's got heating up, it's gotten real hot, but I actually think these types of conversations are healthy. But let me clarify a couple things. The West Side Market is 111 years old. It started as a small flea market across the street at Market Avenue. For over 100 years, small, scrappy businesses who are not wealthy, who are not fancy, and by the way, through the pandemic, barely made it, and many of them did not make it, and had to close their doors. These are little, small businesses that desperately try to stay above water and make ends meet every single month and pay their employees, and try to pay their employees. Hopefully they made enough money to pay their employees. The market is a group of small, Cleveland-based businesses with family members that have loved them and cared about them for years. The new Cleveland Public Market Corporation, one of the guiding principles is, as we move forward, ensuring that diversity, equity, inclusion is fundamental in the growth of the market. This is something that I've said at that table and on this floor over and over again. As we backfill empty vendors, we need to ensure that the vendors that are coming in look like the city of Cleveland. That is a fundamental value of the Cleveland Public Market Corporation, which thanks to your support, Council President, I sit on. So as we move forward, once again, recognizing the fact that we're going to have a robust conversation about the market, its funding, its capital needs. I think that's a healthy thing. I might be crazy. I think it's a healthy thing. But let's remember the fact that these folks have put up with decades of disinvestment in the market. They have stuck through it. They have kept their small business open. Some couldn't stay above water, so they closed. They are passionate lovers of the city of Cleveland, and they care about what they're doing. Are they passionate? Yes, they are. Do I agree with everything that's been said over the past 2 weeks? No, I don't. But at the end of the day, this is a city of Cleveland asset. It's a city of Cleveland icon. It is full of local, scrappy, small businesses, and they are fighting to get the investment that they've deserved for decades and decades and decades. And I don't know if anybody can blame them for fighting for that. Again, at the end of the day, we'll make hard decisions on this side of the aisle. We will. But to pit neighborhoods against each other is going to be the demise of our city if we try to do that. And I just want to leave it there. The other thing I'll say is we've got 4 vendors behind me, Mr. Chairman. The president of the West Side Markets Association, his name's Don Whitaker. He's the guy on the left here. Don, on so many occasions, could have told me, Frank Jackson, Justin Bibb, and many other people pound salt. He could have gone on cameras and talked about all the things the city wasn't doing. He could have said, forget you, when we came to him and said, hey, vendors, will you be a part of the discussion about the future of the city of Cleveland? He could have said, I've heard promises for decades, and I'm not engaging with you in good faith. He could have done all of that. and he didn't. Now, once again, I just told him an hour ago about my feelings about some of the things that have come out of the vendors about our council president. Just told him that an hour ago. But he is a dedicated, passionate market vendor who genuinely cares about the city of Cleveland, genuinely cares about the well-being of the West Side Market. And once again, I'm going to leave with two things, Mr. President. Number one, I would encourage anyone and everyone who wants to know more about the market to take a tour. Call Don. He'll take you around, meet vendors, talk about the needs. I would encourage anyone to go to the market, walk around, talk to vendors, hear from their experiences. And then the other thing, Mr. President, again, that I would say, I welcome the robust conversation, but again, we gotta look at this city as one Cleveland. We gotta look at this city as, I'm fighting for your neighborhood, you're fighting for mine, because when we do that, at the end of the day, we all win. And that's where I hope we can continue this conversation. Making hard decisions? Absolutely. That's why we're here. But ensuring that we don't fragment the city of Cleveland and push for a race to the bottom. Thank you, Mr. President.
I just want to first and foremost commend the councilman for your leaning into this. You and I have had a lot of conversations on this, and you've always fought for equity for the entire city, but you've also been a fierce advocate for the ward and for the people that you represent. And as I tell everyone, I never get mad at a person who's here to represent who they're sent to represent. So commend you, sir, and look forward to continue to work with you on that, okay? Councilman, can I put you back on after Councilman Jones? Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to address the ARPA issue, and I hope I can get some consideration of time on the issue. One of the things I want to say, I heard my colleague, Carrie McCormick, passionately talk about this council not going against the South as we look at the moments in time where the ARPA dollars are now dwindling. And what I want to say is that there was a time in this city where it was about neighborhoods first. It was with the proposition that I fight for your neighborhood, you fight for my neighborhood. And over time, this proposition of working together changed. And it changed, and we've been under this for 20-some years. The council that's in here now is 2/3 are new members of Cleveland City Council. And the administration is brand new. And so working together this far up to where we are, my hat's off, because there's still a lot of fundamental work that needs to be done in the city of Cleveland in order to bring it back into its right place. We talked a little bit about that on Cleveland City Council and not the Finance, but an Economic Development Committee this morning. And we talked about the department and bottlenecking projects. And that has been something that has been a long due issue for a long period of time. And then part of that is probably because of staffing and other issues with the law department and just a sense of communications. And trying to get work done in the city of Cleveland, unfortunately, it's been difficult. When developers are trying to come to the city of Cleveland, trying to get development happening, they're going through all of this process. The departments in the city of Cleveland are broken. The departments of the city of Cleveland is broken. So they need to be fixed. And it's been a long time that can has been kicked down the avenue. So when you've heard me stand up here on this mic, and some of you may not have liked the fact that I'm long-winded, sometimes I'm long-winded because I'm trying to beat into you the proposition that we can make that change. That if we have the wheel of thought and we put action behind it, we can make that change. Now, the West Side Market, I like the West Side Market. The West Side Market is Cleveland's market. And that can was kicked down the road for so long, not repairing that place, not seeing it as a value institute, and as well as a number of assets in the city of Cleveland have not been taken care of. And because those assets have not been taken care of, we find ourselves having to use resources to bring them back up to market conditions. And I say all that to simply say, I've sat here on this floor and I've asked then President Kevin Kelly, and I've asked this president, Mr. Blaine Griffin, and I talked to the council, blue in the face, that if we're going to talk about how we spend ARPA funds, we should have a day set aside, 2 or 3 days, to really talk about what council's priorities should be, locked in a room and get a better understanding. And then the $511 million that we were blessed to get from the Biden Democratic administration, because we ain't never received any money from Republicans like this. They've always taken our money. To get that money from Biden, I've also asked, and I've said it till I'm blue in the face, that we should use our corporate community. We have financial institutions that do business in the city of Cleveland. They should work with us to leverage those funds. And then lastly, the council president has said this, that we should not be an institution that gives out money to all of these people who've had their hands out and asking it. It's been the county's responsibility to deal with social service issues. But Cleveland right now, out of the 40 different ARPA requests, 20 of those ARPA requests are social service items, some of which I can look at the first 5 on here, is $30 million. We need to look at how we claw back some of those funds and then relook at where our priorities truly need to be. And I believe our priorities, Mr. President, to my esteemed colleagues, and I say my esteemed colleagues, I mean the administration as well, that we should look at how we reinvest into the city of Cleveland. Those funds should be going to the city of Cleveland. And we should find ways to strengthen our departments, hire the people who will come in and help make a difference, provide services to our citizens, and super serve our citizens. And when we need to fight on issues like abortion issues and state issues where the state continues, and we're really fundamentally, Mr. President, at a crossroads, because I've never seen anything quite like this in my life, where you can have a young man knock on a door and get shot, where you can see a situation where the police reach the wrong address and shoot and kill the guy, when you can just be walking in the street and be harassed, shot, and killed. And the mass murders in this country has absolutely torn away at my soul and spirit. And the sad part about it all is we have a Republican Party with the blood on their hands of destroying American cities all across the continental United States. And their dictatorship has caused for us being in the crazy zone, so to speak, where I've never seen this kind of murder, this kind of killing, and this kind of happening that's in our society. And to see that you can have a sweet 16-year-old party and have someone crash it and start killing everybody, shooting kids in schools, and trainers training 13-year-olds how to use AR-K-47s and losing control and killing the trainer. I mean, we got all of that happening because one party decides that they're going to press upon us their values, their ideals, their beliefs, and their opinions. And I just think that is wrong. And that all of those who are here today, who are listening to my voice, I'm here to work with you all for what is right. So we should get up and fight. No institution should try to dictate or lord over Americans as what we have seen it. It is such an aberration that even the Supreme Court has been corrupted, with a Supreme Court judge accepting hundreds of millions of dollars in gifts. And so when we look at how this is warped us, it's like if we go to the state trying to limit the people from having the right and opportunity to have a vote or to put an initiative on the ballot. They're trying to make it difficult for basic human beings to have their own choices and to make their own decisions. That is what it means to live in a democracy. Freedom. Freedom of choice. God gave it to us, and the State House and the Congress and the president, whoever he or she may be, should not take away those rights. And when those rights are trampled on, it not only hurts you, hurts me, hurts my family. So I want to say this in closing. I know it was a lot. I want to say this in closing, and I want you to stand up, Anthony Harrison, and clap. That we're going to have those moments where we're in disagreement, but we're still brothers and sisters in this hall. And we still have the most important task that the public has given us, and that's the task of serving them and super serving them well. I'm honored to still be in this council, to still have the opportunity, to still have the breath, to be able to do that. And as long as I live, I will use this microphone to talk on behalf of my citizens. Thank you,
Councilman. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
You know, I'm going to say this, Councilman. I'm crazy about the West Side. I have written so much policy to deal with the entire city, with the entire county. We're going down, Councilman Starr, Kelly and I, to battle down state, to deal with some state issues, to deal with people. I have received national awards, honored National Father in 2001, down in Washington, D.C., of the entire country. So I've done a lot of things, man. So I don't just look at my ward, but place matters. When you walk my community and you see little children with mold and mildew in their house, place matters. And you talk about putting $15 million in a certain area, and they can't even go to the store to get food or just to get an apple. Place matters. When you have children that go to Glenville High School, FDR, Stephanie Tubbs Jones School, just to get a meal. Place matters. And you say, talking about even right here, when you walk in the community and you visit some houses and vermins are running around in their homes, and you say, let me put $15 million on the West Side Market, you need to come and visit my community, and you say that we're pushing policy that affect people. Councilman Starr and Councilman Jones are right.
Councilman.
I'm almost finished, because it's in my heart. I've been here for a while. I walked. I came in as an activist, and I care about everybody.
Councilman.
But when you see these little children who's living worse than a third world nation, and you say, let's put $15 million here, that's not right, man. That's not right, man.
Councilman, we got
That's
your
not
point.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Anthony Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I'm really one who don't do this often here in the council chambers, but, I couldn't sit here tonight, Mr. President, and be quiet. As my colleagues indicated, that you have been unfairly targeted throughout this process from the beginning since you took office as president until now. And it really is unfair that you have had to endure the unnecessary level of scrutiny by those, in fact, who need your assistance. It reminds me of a saying that my grandmother would say, remember the hands that helped and the feet that kick. So for all of those who, in their, to me, a failed attempt to push the buttons and create this narrative, I just want you to remember the hands that helped and the feet that has kicked during this process. The situation around neighborhoods and taking care of the people, to me, it's about levels. And when you think about the investments that has happened throughout these many neighborhoods, I can't think of I'm looking at all the money, Councilman Polensek, from back in the day in Glenville. Where did it go? Where did it go? You look around and you see nothing. You see trash everywhere. You see abandoned houses. You see commercial corridors boarded up. And through this process, all we've heard was about finding ways to take care of our neighborhoods. And when you look at this last docket of ARPA requests, you look at the previous docket's ARPA requests, the money that we have set aside to take care of these neighborhoods, home repair, commercial corridor activation, gap financing, is a drop in the bucket to the real overall problem that we have in the city of Cleveland. So what I would have liked to see happen in this last docket of ARPA requests was more money to address the problems that we hear from the people every single day. The housing needs, the economic development needs, the runover vacant lots that line our cities. All of these big ticket items that we're looking to fund, right? Or we're gonna be asked to deliberate and fund, means nothing if these neighborhoods stay in the condition that they are today. It means nothing. Who are we really trying to serve here? Who are we really trying to support here? So I just hope that as we go through this process with this last docket of money, we think about what Meek Mill said. There's levels to this. I won't say the other part, right? There's levels to this. And the part of the frustration that we hear is about the levels of attention, resources, and commitment to many other parts of this city that has seen none. So I agree, this debate that we are having is really it's an epic debate because I haven't seen this type of debate in quite some time. So I look forward, Mr. President, to having this discussion because we're going to have to really make some tough decisions about what we do, how we do it, and at what levels we do it. So, Mr. President, again, I look forward to this conversation. I thank all of my colleagues for their robust comments here tonight, and I'm sure it's going to be a wild one coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, Madam Clerk, members of the administration. You know, Anthony touched on it a moment, and all of my colleagues have. You know, debate is very healthy. And I appreciate the president, because as I said today at the finance table, he's getting pulled in many directions. He's hearing a lot of concerns, a lot of debate, issues within the body, and I say to our friends from the West Side Market, and I shop at the West Side Market. The merchants over there know it. I go there as often as I can, especially when I'm down here at the hall, because to me it's Cleveland. When I go there, it's what I see Cleveland is. Every race, every nationality, every religion, they're at the West Side Market. But at the end of the day, this last bunch of pieces of legislation that have been sent to us by the administration, as I've said, we've got to be penny wise and not pound foolish on this. We got to look at these dollars, how they're going to have. We have to keep telling each other, don't forget 3 years. This is only 3 years. Whatever we fund has to be sustainable. It has to be sustainable. So I say that not only to our colleagues, my brothers and sisters here with the administration, we have to be able to sustain this. We have to be able to fund these programs beyond the 3 years. So we have a lot of work on our plate. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope we're going to take our time, because I'm in no hurry to get this stuff passed. I don't care how many meetings, as I indicated to my colleague, Kerry, if I'd like to go. I've been to the West Side Market, I don't know how many times, but I've never been in the bowels of the West Side Market. I've never been in the basement, which I hear so often from the merchants there. I'd like to go over there. A bunch of us would like to go over there and look, and if we need to take rides and look at other projects and other locations, I'm prepared to do that, because we have to make sure. People think this is a lot of money, but let me tell you, it's not even 3/4 of the general fund budget. Think about that. Everyone says, oh, this massive amount of money. It isn't. It would operate the city of Cleveland for only 3/4 of, not even 3/4 of the year, if we were to put it in the general fund. So that's why we have to take our time. So, again, Mr. President, the assault that was launched at you was wrong and unfortunate, because people need to understand the pressure. I sat there. I know what it's like to have 7, well, then it was 21 pulling at you.
30-something.
Well, I was here when there was 33, and then it was really interesting in here. You want to talk. So this debate is healthy. It's good for us. We can disagree and still be agreeable. That's what we have to do at the end of the day. We're here to work with the administration. We're here to help them. They have to understand the pressures that we're under. All the concerns that have been addressed tonight on the floor about service, it's all correct. All correct. We are, at 10 o'clock this morning, 10:15, I already had 33 phone calls. I mean, and I'm looking at them. What are they? The garbage didn't get picked up. The tree didn't get trimmed. I got lights out in front of my house I can't get fixed. Every one of the 48 calls that I've had up to tonight's meeting, I didn't have one phone call telling me I should give Jimmy Haslam more money. Not one. It was about how come I can't get services? How come the police aren't on my street? How come there's no traffic enforcement in my neighborhood? Okay, those are the things that my colleagues are hearing. And I refuse, as the senior member of this body, to stand up here and let my council president get beat up and let my colleagues get beat up. Because again, we don't hire, we don't fire. We don't deploy, we don't administer. The administration does that by the charter. We're prohibited. We're here to help, but the administration runs city government, provides the services. We've gave them the tools that they asked for during the budget hearing process. We're here to help them, but they got to listen to us. They got to understand the concerns that we're confronted with, and by working together, we can make a big difference in the city. But again, Mr. Chairman, I'm here to support you. For you to get tagged was wrong and inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. I just say this in closing, that it's always proud to watch this body engage in this kind of debate. The reason that I tell people that the outside folks can't bother me, because nobody has to make sure that they talk with all of the council members and see all of the competing needs that the council members. So before I could even get to the outside, we got to deal with this. But I got to say this to everybody. It's really proud and happy that you guys are able to engage and support each other, not just me, but each other through this. And I want to just say this. One of my favorite characters is Yoda, and he said something in Star Wars when I was growing up. He said, you got to be willing to lose everything you learn to love. And even though I love this city and I love this job, I will lose it doing the right thing. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. We could talk to Mr. Whitaker in the back. The public comment is closed, but anybody that I believe Mr. Whitaker and the West Side Market folks make themselves available.
Like
Thank you.
Old days we used to have.
This committee, I'm sorry, do we have
like the old days.
Excuse the absences, if you could, Madam Clerk?
That the absence of Councilmember Casey is hereby excused, seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. This committee is adjourned to the next regular meeting, April 24th, 2023. Thank you.
Both men are in the middle of the ring again. Jasir's trying to use that jab. Derek hits jab of his own, misses the punch.